folks. Guadalupe? Guadalupe, you have my book? One slide detail. Okay. Welcome to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. It's Tuesday, May 20th. This is the Board of Public Works, Edward R. Roybal Hearing Room. Well, thank you for making the trip to downtown. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, especially getting parking, so I appreciate your patience. We have several items today, and as we wait for our colleagues to join me, what I'd like to probably do is let's start with the report, and once I get another council member here to have a quorum, we can go through these other pieces. So, he's coming. Great. What we can do is start with item number 11. It's the weekly status update, and we'll buy some time that way. So, item 11. Roberto, you want to read?
Item 11, Councilman, is a weekly status report presented by LAHD and the Planning Department. It has to do with condo conversions, and I believe planning staff is present.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, James.
Blumenfeld.
And Mike?
James Blumenfeld, City Planning. Well, we're responding to the update on the status of all the many motions that were directed at the Planning Department and actually Housing Department and sometimes City Attorney regarding condo conversions for the most part, sometimes demolitions. So in our report, we've had several reports, the last one being in February, and all of the directives we've responded to with the exception of two that are pending, and two involve consultant work. One is to set up a panel of experts to look at various housing issues we were going to do, and the second was to develop a longer-term strategy with regard to the findings in the condo conversion ordinance that deals with the cumulative impact of condo conversions on the rental housing market.
Okay.
So we had reported to you that in order to do the figure out a long-term strategy, we needed outside help, and we have had discussions with Kaiser Marston. They have an approach that they would take to do such a study. We would need to find. We don't have an exact or even a ballpark estimate of such an approach because we haven't gotten as far as a real proposal, but we presume it would be somewhere in the range of $10,000 to $20,000, and we'll get a more firm estimate from them. But we haven't proceeded further than that because everybody in the planning department involved in citywide planning is involved full-time and overtime preparing the housing element. So I think if we want to proceed with this and engage a consultant such as Kaiser Marston to do this, that we would probably need to begin doing it at the conclusion of the housing element, which would probably be August.
And I appreciate all that's before us, especially the planning department and the staff, all the challenges that we have in trying to do our housing element. But it was May 29th, 2007, when we started this request for written report. So I know you've been giving us verbal reports incrementally throughout the year, but we're almost at the 12th month. So is there a way to at least pin down what critical points have been addressed through the different motions so that we're not kind of lost on all the different motions that are coming forward?
We believe all of the motions have been addressed except those two.
Okay.
Every single one you've issued, we have addressed.
And
so only
form?
the two I refer to are outstanding. Every other one we've addressed. We've either given you reports, we've reported verbally, we've given written reports. The city attorney has a letter on some of these that were issued. Just the two outstanding issues are the ones they reported on.
And plus the panel of experts, right?
And the panel of experts and the cumulative impact, both of which involve
Okay.
a lot of staff work and consultants. But we will do, if you want us to do them, but since last April, we've been fully engaged, literally all full-time and overtime, and student professional workers
Right.
and volunteer staff doing the housing element.
Well, why don't we put together a calendar of when you anticipate we could address this? And that would force us to begin prioritizing our work program as the year comes forward. I know with the hard work of Councilman Weissar in Budget and Finance, we've added staff to the planning department. And perhaps you can give us some type of an action plan that has dates on it that allows us to get to a place where we can review these products. Right now, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. The economy being what it is, the condo market is not as hot as it once was when all of this activity was occurring. So now is the time to prepare and look at these gray areas and these inconsistencies that were brought up. So perhaps we can do that, Jane. Maybe
Okay.
put together a time frame of sorts.
And then the other thing, we can discuss with you the estimates they give us, so, or at least on the cumulative impact, and you can weigh that into
Right.
your decisions as well.
Yeah, I just want to bring it back down to a place where we could see what's in front of us, because it seems to be floating away, and we get to it, we can.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't
It's
get the
not that we've
reports.
forgotten,
No,
honestly.
but see,
just-
it's my job, I believe, to
Yeah.
keep us focused in
Okay.
getting these answers, knowing how much work is coming at you guys.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mike, did you have anything else to add? Mr. Young, Mike Young.
Mr. President and fellow members. This is the weekly status report on the condo conversions. As of May 1st, 2007, that's since the time the ordinance went through, to April 30th, 2008. The total filings with the department was 427. Total decisions was 377. Total condominium conversions filed was 68. And the decisions made was 108, of which 90 were approvals, 12 were denials, and 6 were withdrawn. In comparison to May 1st, 2006 to April 30th, 2007, the year preceding it, total filings was 717, total decisions was 586, total condominium conversions filed was 231 with 163 decisions. Approvals were 106, denials were 3, 0 withdrawn. It should be noted that prior to May 2007, the expediting section and a strike team of outside consultants addressed condominium conversions, but since May 2007, only the Division of Land addressed condominium conversions. In regards to condominium conversions, we moved ahead in regards to the internet. Now, if anyone goes to the department website, they're able to review the number of filings and the current filings on the internet, condominium conversions. The report itself includes case number, address, council district, units per certificate of occupancy, the units applied for community plan area, and the file date. In addition to the department's website, if anyone is interested when the cases are filed, in the interest of when the public hearings, it's also on the website itself.
So the assertion here is that should there be a parcel of land that's being viewed for condo conversion, the fact that it's on this website, that address, will give the public the ability to know what's being sought in terms of any condo conversion cases.
That's correct.
And how much time is afforded to the public in order to become aware of those intentions? When it enters the website, how much time is there? Is that well before the public hearing requirements?
There's real no set answer in that regards, because once the case is filed, it goes out to the various departments. The case is not scheduled until we receive reports from the various departments, especially the Bureau of Engineering. Once we receive that, as well as the environmental clearance have been done, then the case will be scheduled.
But isn't there a average amount of time when the departments take when they review a case like that? 3 months, 6 months, a year?
It's been averaging between 6 months to a year.
6 months to a year?
Depending on the environmental clearance, depending on the responses by the various departments.
So concerned tenants and or neighbors or neighborhood groups would have those 6 months knowing that that application is making its way through the bureaucratic process.
That is correct.
Okay.
And then when it's scheduled for a public hearing, there is a 10-day notification. And
Okay.
each individual within the 500-foot radius will be notified of the public hearing.
This is the kind of information Dunn would perhaps like to hear about. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
In addition to what we have done since that time, was to amend the application to include additional information for consideration in the decision making. The vacancy factor is information that is provided by DWP. And
Okay.
so we utilize that in the findings that we would have to make. The conditions of approval, there are a couple of other conditions that we are considering right now and have incorporated in the determination. That includes relocation assistance, and it reads as follows. Record a covenant agreement binding the applicant and any successor in interest to provide relocation assistance in a manner consistent with the Los Angeles Municipal Code and any additional ordinances that may provide greater relocation assistance for tenants being evicted. The covenant agreement shall be executed and recorded within 10 days after expiration of the appeal period and final action thereof, and a copy provided to each tenant within 5 days of the recordation of the covenant agreement. Failure to meet the requirements of this condition, including time limits, may be grounds for disapproval of the final map. Second, pay a fee of $14.92 for each unit in lieu of the previous required amounts of $500 per unit prior to the conversion of rental housing into the rental housing production account of the housing department per section 1295.2K of the municipal code. In addition to that, beginning fall of last year, we started notifying the neighborhood councils. When the cases are filed, they get every copy of the case filings, including condo conversions. That concludes my report.
That's your report? Okay.
Yeah, and I
Just
have
hand
copies
it in.
here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have copies here for your.
Yeah, please, let the council have a copy and. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Okay, thank you.
So, Councilman, I'm trying my best to get us, with these weekly reports, to give this committee the foresight in terms of what type of policy changes we need to make to avoid the kind of displacements and concerns that were raised a year ago when the condo conversions were coming at us at a very fast pace. And so there's still some issues I think they need to address and work through in terms of how we look at measuring the local economy, the local vacancies, and how that's being weighed as they go through the decision making. And so that's something we need to continue pushing forward. But here's the report, and I think Councilman Rosendahl probably would appreciate this as much as the other west and western part of the San Fernando Valley that was going through this, that we could make them aware of these changes that we're trying to make. That being said, we can go back to the starting of the agenda, now that we have a quorum. One more continuance. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Number one, we'll act on once we get David Lara in the room. So I'd like to know when he gets here so we can deal with that.
No, Councilman, I think that is for item 3.
Well, I have here, we can approve and request that the city attorney prepare the ordinance.
Yes.
Item number one, if If that's the case, we can do that. For what? Okay, well, we're going to move it, and if they have any questions, they can ask questions. So we'll do that. Number 2, we can continue in Plum for June 10th, 08. Number 3, okay, number 3 we'll call special. And in this much we have cards as well. Number 4, we can move on consent. If there are no questions. Number 5, we can continue to Plum on June 10th, the council June 18th. And that's also for B. And on number 6, we can continue to May 27th and June 3rd in council. 7A, we can continue for 3 months per the council office. 7B,
We have specific dates from the applicant request on 7A and B to
Okay.
continue in Plum to November the 18th and in council until December 3rd. That's for both A and B, 7A and B.
sounds good. Number 8, I believe we're going to continue. Well, let's call 8. You want to continue that? Okay. So the applicant's here. Okay, so we will continue this, and we have your approval. Thank you, sir.
Okay, since it's a notice item, we need specific dates. Are they going to be prepared to come to committee next week?
It's June 10th.
Okay, June 10th, and what day in council?
The following,
Okay, the following week in council on the,
Yes.
I think 18th. Why don't we say June 10th and June
2 for
18th?
June 10th in Plum, and the following council date afterwards. Okay? So that's number 8. Number 9, we have cards. We'll call it special. And we took care of number 10. No, 10 is, the director won't be here today. So, and we took care of 11. So those consent items, Councilmember, we have a second on those continuances. Thank you, sir. Okay. Can you take us back to,
We can consider item 3, Councilman. No, excuse, oh, actually, building and safety is here, so we can do item 1, Councilman.
so item 1 we already acted on. Did Building and Safety have any comments on that?
Mr. Lara?
Mr. Lauda? David Lauda? Right. We were directed that you wanted to be present when we acted on item 1. We did that. We sent it over to the city attorney, prepared for an ordinance.
That's
Want to make sure we covered our bases.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for doing that.
So we got your permission. Thank you,
You
sir.
don't need my permission. Thank you.
Okay, same thing with number 3. We wanted to hold this until you were present. We did that. And so what's next item, Roberto?
Actually, it's item 3, Councilman. We call that special. That's
Okay.
a hardship exemption in CD2, and I think the council office had some comments.
We have a number of cards, so speaker
And we'll-
cards. Yeah,
yeah.
it's about 6 or 7.
We have several cards on this item. But let's get the staff report, then we'll have,
Since this is a hardship exemption, there is no, it's an individual's application from the prohibition from the ICO. It's an application that's filed directly with the city clerk, and there's some concern on the council district's perspective because they went out and visited the property and the neighbors, and they just want to give you feedback. So you may want to hear from the council office first.
okay. Dale, did you like to speak first or after the public hearing?
After the public, please.
Okay. All right. So let's go through the list. We have with us Mark Siegel, Will, I believe it's Neves, Nina Royale, Cindy Cleghorn, and Tommy Lynn Bowling. If you'd like to come on up, sir, please, your name and address. Just keep an eye on the clock. We got 2 minutes.
Thank you.
If you have any written material, please get to the point, because then we write these beautiful letters and we run out of time.
Great. Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Mark Siegel. I live at 7635 McGordy Street in Hunga. I'm on the Sunlenta Hunga Neighborhood Council, and I was on the Design Advisory Committee until last week when I retired because of a quorum arrangement. I didn't want to violate the bylaws. I thank you for all the hard work that this committee does. You guys do some really great work, and I want to thank you, especially in regards to the anti-mansionization law that you had worked on over the past 6 months, and thank you very much. In regards to this issue here, this developer, Mr. Hall, is the whole reason that he is the one person that caused us to create an anti-mansionization law. We were the first community that did create it because of the ways in which he was pushing the envelope and attempting to violate everything he possibly could to maximize every square inch of property and airspace in our community. He was kicked out of developing in La Crescenta and La Cañada because of the things that he was doing there. I can only impress upon you to please look at the facts and please see what has happened in regards to the properties that he says. He's made millions in our community, literally millions of dollars in the work that he has done. He has violated things. The law in regards to his contractor license says he can build up to 4 houses. He's violated that rule every year for many years. And there's other things too. Excuse me, I'm so nervous, I don't know why, but anyhow, please look into it. Please do not allow him this hardship. It's there specifically because of the things he was doing to our community and the other communities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker. Come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm Nina Royal, and I am Vice President in charge of outreach for the Sunlenta Hunga Neighborhood Council. We are outreaching to you. We are please asking you to please honor our land use ordinance laws. This developer is proven to be unscrupulous. There is now a community impact statement on file that will tell you how he tried to take out an old oak tree, claiming that it was diseased. It was not. We had to hire an arborist to prove our theory, and the city did tell him that he had to repair the damage to the tree, as well as he put in that second story after our ordinance was passed back in 1995, knowing full well that what he was doing was illegal. And he's here before you today now asking for a variance. So as outreach, I am imploring you to please honor your own ordinance that was passed and supported by our councilperson, Wendy Gruhl, who also fought very hard to get us this ordinance because our community is under attack by developers like Robert Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have Tomlin Bowling, Cindy Cleghorn, and Will Knives. Come on up.
Will Nieves.
Nieves, okay.
I'm the applicant's representative. My address is 21250 Hawthorne Boulevard, Suite 700, Torrance, California, 90503. I'd like to address the Plum Committee here and state that I would really like for you to read my justification and the findings that I have in the file that I've presented to you. It states clearly all the facts and circumstances in regards to this particular case. The issue at hand is that there were 2 houses being built simultaneously, side by side, on Commerce Avenue, 10638, which is the subject property, and 10642, which is the property right next door. One of the properties was submitted, they were submitted at 2 separate times, 6 months apart from each other. They were submitted prior to the enactment of the ICO. One of the projects was allowed to continue to go through and was built at a 2,800 square foot ratio. The second unit, which was not approved, which is the subject item here before you, was approved at 2,400 square feet because it lapsed in time with the plan check that was submitted for the project. It exceeded the time frame in which he could build the project due to the fact that there was a sanitary sewer line that was built and had to be extended into this project. That took 1.5 years with Public Works to be able to complete. When that was completed, the plan check had expired, and he had to renew his plan check. So one of the projects was allowed to continue forward, the other one was not, and it was subjected to a lower ratio, even though both were submitted at 2,800 square feet. And so if you look at these findings, you'll understand it a little bit more clearly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Nieves. Next is Cindy Cleghorn and Tommy Lynn Bowling.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Cindy Cleghorn, and I am the secretary on the Sunlenta Hunga Neighborhood Council. During this time period, I served as president. I have some handouts which were already forwarded to the committee in advance, but I also am providing you with an extra copy just in case. They're jogged back and forth, and they represent comments that have been submitted by stakeholders in the community and the neighborhood council. What I wanted to focus on with you is hardship. When we review hardships in our neighborhood council during the time that this ordinance came into being, we saw neighbors who had started their plans because they were adding on for expanded families, or that they had seniors who now needed wheelchair access, and they needed that little bit of extra square footage, which put them into the hardship area. This is clearly not the case in this development. This is a developer who is taking advantage of our community over and over again. So there is no hardship here. So I just wanted to emphasize that. As far as the hardship is concerned, I do have some photographs as well of construction in progress that show both houses under construction, and I will pass those along to you as well.
Thank you, Ms. Cleghorn. Thank you very much. Our last speaker, Tommy Lynn Bowling.
Hi, I'm Tommy Bowling. I'm on the Design Advisory Committee for the Sunlenta Hunga Neighborhood Council, and I have been since its inception. And yes, that's true. The reason that we started the FAR ICO in our area is because of Robert Hall. He is a famous name in our community. Nothing brings more people to our DAC meetings than the name Robert Hall. So I wanted to let you know that I was personally responsible for a research project pulling forward all the titles for all the properties he's sold in Sunlenta Hunga, because he does not have the state-required contractor's license. He puts them in other people's names, his friends, his relatives. To me, that's skirting the law. It's breaking the law, and I've given the information to the authorities. We hope to see that he gets legally prosecuted.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Mr. Thrush.
Good afternoon, Chairman Reyes, members of the committee. My name is Dale Thrush, and I am Planning Deputy for Councilmember Wendy Gruhl. Council District 2 opposes this hardship exemption, and I would hasten to add that of the 8 or 9 hardship exemptions that we've had under the ICO, this is the only one we've opposed. All of the others we've either supported or been neutral about. In this case, the builder knew of the ICO at the time he submitted his plans to Building and Safety. He prepared the plans to show a large attic area on the second floor of the front part of the structure. As you know, Building and Safety doesn't count attic as square footage when it's doing an FAR calculation under the ICO. So as soon as he received his certificate of occupancy, he converted the attic space into 2 bedrooms. Unfortunately for the developer, his Building and Safety caught him and required him to restore the property to the condition reflected in the plans. In our view, this is not a hardship at all. It is simply a willful violation of the ICO, and any injury suffered by this applicant was purely self-inflicted. We would urge you to deny this hardship exemption. Thank you. And I believe David Lara is here from Building and Safety, and he can give you the technical aspects of what Building and Safety did in enforcing the code in this case.
Okay. Mr. Lara.
They can always get a letter from you.
Thank you, council members. As Mr. Thrush alluded to, this particular building in question became a problem. What we ended up doing was We did work with Mr. Hall to try to rectify that particular situation by sealing off the area in question, which in this case was the attic. Now, much of that was verified by our inspection staff during the time of the actual construction. In my interview with our inspection staff this morning, they had indicated that they had worked with Mr. Hall to accomplish this. Now, we had issued the C of O in December of '06, which was about a couple of years ago. Now, generally the problem, however, is that once we issue a C of O on any of these structures, as it can happen, some people might decide to want to go ahead and convert it or do some strange thing like that after the fact when we're not around, in which case, once that happens, and if we do get a complaint, we go out and verify it, do another inspection, and then we will verify whether or not if the violation still exists.
Let me ask you a basic question. Is the hardship self-imposed?
Well, as I said earlier, Councilman, we had worked with Mr. Hall to get this item mitigated, which means that they could not use that space. We worked very hard to make sure that the space was sealed up. He clearly, as far as we knew, he clearly understood where we were coming from, what the circumstances were. Now, once we issued the C of O, of course, I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth, but anything could happen. And it's quite, if this conversion took place after we issued the final C of O, then it'd be hard for us, at least as an enforcement agency, to say that he was not informed of the circumstances that could take place should he convert that space.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues? For anybody?
So the attic itself wasn't a concern for the ICO, but once the attic was illegally converted into living space, that's when the ACO became an issue because of the increase of habitable space, correct? That wasn't accounted for in the original proposal.
That's correct.
That's correct, right? Is this more of are we penalizing someone for their disingenuous conduct, or are we looking this as a self-imposed hardship? Because there's two, right? There's a legal, or not the legal, but kind of you're not following the rules, and therefore you do not qualify for a hardship exemption. Or is it more that we just lost confidence in a person's conduct?
Well, let me attempt to answer that in a very diplomatic way, and that is that we have an approved set of plans, and on those approved set of plans, that's what the inspectors go by, and up until the certificate of occupancy is issued, we stick to that rendering that's on that approved set of plans. Anything that goes beyond that requires a new plan check, new approvals, new clearances, possibly by the planning department. So you could probably surmise that anything that happens after the fact that goes above and beyond what the approved plans indicate, there's definitely an issue there.
Okay, thank you. I know that I'm working on some ICOs in my district, and they are not developed easily. There's a lot of time and effort put into those rules and regulations, a lot of thought, and I think we need to protect the integrity of these ICOs and the policies that go with them, and that certainly when anyone imposes a hardship upon themselves or looks for ways to circumvent the ICOs, people should not be rewarded for that. So, anyway.
Okay. So we have a motion to essentially deny the
exemption request. Would you like to move that, please?
Okay, that'll be moved and seconded. That'll be the action of this committee. We're fine with that? Sir? Okay. That'll be action of this committee. All right. Number 8, we continued, and we did have the parties there that Mr. Ben Manish did support continuance, and he's left the room. So I'll make sure I mention his name as the person who submitted his name for the card. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, well, Roberto, our next item?
The next item, Councilman, is 9A, 9B, and 9C, all interrelated. It's an appeal by the Melrose Camerford Avenue Limited Liability Corporation. It has to do with the denial of variances, with the appeal of a track map, and also a report from the CPC as it relates to a zone change and a height district change for a 62-unit condo project in CD 13.
Okay. Now, I understand this has been one of those really fun projects that everyone likes to engage in and a lot of lively conversations. But my understanding is that there is a recommendation to continue this to June 10th. Is that the right date, folks?
June 3rd, Council.
June 3rd, I'm sorry. Are we fine with June 3rd?
Good afternoon, council members. Madhu Kumar, Planning Department. Do we know the reason why it's being continued?
I'm sorry?
I believe the council office requested the
The
continue.
council office wanted to continue this to June 3rd.
Thank you.
Okay. That being the case, we've been advised that we should not hold the public hearing until June 3rd. And we have quite a few cards here. I want to make sure that's acknowledged and understood, and we're okay with that. Correct? Council office?
Good afternoon. I was just speaking to some of our constituents, and we were fine. I'm sorry, Kelly Bernard, Director of Planning and Economic Development for CD 13. And they have asked, many of them have been here several times on this continuous, and we appreciate their patience, and they have asked if they could speak. I guess they're not going to be available to come back on June 3rd. So,
Well, let's do this. Since it's going to be continued,
yes.
let's give everybody, those who want to speak, 1 minute, because we're going to have to open this up again.
Then, no, they'll just come back.
All right.
Thank you for your patience. I apologize.
Okay, so we will close the public hearing and open it up again on June 3rd. We'll leave it open for June 3rd. We won't take the cards today. That's the bottom line. Okay.
Councilmember,
Help me out, folks.
before we go on, the deadline for council to act on this item is the 4th. So unless we get a continuance, we'll have to get a continuance in council today, too.
That's fine. We'll do that.
Okay.
Madam Attorney?
And it should be till the 18th in council.
Okay, 18th
Okay.
in council.
Yeah.
Madam Attorney?
You need to continue to a date certain, and also because there's an item on the agenda that wasn't noticed, there needs to be a public hearing notice put out with a 10-day notice, and that's for the appeal of the zone change.
Okay. Do we have all our dates lined up then? June 4th to council, June 18th?
June 3rd, council.
June 3rd. All right.
June 3rd in Plum, June 18th in council.
Fine, that's what we'll do. And all the proper notices will be implemented by that time. Okay. That, I believe, concludes the agenda.
Actually, number 10
Number 10.
is the Director of Planning's report. I don't see her
And
here.
she's not going to be here?
Okay, and then public comment.
All right. Anybody here public comment? Mr. Daniel Wright. Public comment? Mr. Wright, it's all yours for 2 minutes.
Good day. Daniel Wright, 467 Crane Boulevard. I'm turning in to you for your reading and hopefully encourage your staff to look at these carefully. It's a complaint filed against all of the accountants in the last few years who serve the Autry National Center. And as you know, their expansion may be coming before you within the coming months, either on a CUP or a height variance or something like that. And as you know, the Friends of the Southwest Museum Coalition has for 5 long years tried to bring the Autry to its senses with regard to the impacts of the project on the Southwest Museum. One of the things that was the underlying concepts of the entire merger was that the Autry had $100 million of endowment, and that it would be able to, with these funds, save the Southwest Museum and make the proper investments. But what this report or this complaint to the State Board of Accountancy shows, and supported by an independent auditor that's reviewed the Autry's records, is that for the last 8 years, the Autry has misrepresented to the public its endowment. On the date of its merger with the Southwest Museum, it had total invested securities of $1.8 million. And the Southwest Museum, which was failing and struggling, had about $5 million of endowment. Also, you'll see that there is a documentation that the chief operating officer of the Autry is accused of attaching to the merger agreement a misleading and non-compliant with generally accepted accounting principles balance sheet, which represented that the Autry had $100 million about to come in the door right after the merger. These things were used to get their hands on the Southwest Museum's assets. It merits your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Anybody else here for public comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.